just a child. The other kids would look up at the clouds and they'd see horses and castles, and I'd see cirrocumulus and nimbostratus and winter weather systems threatening our viewers, and I got to get back to the office.
Relax, Dave. You've got the Mid-South's best team helping you get out the word on winter weather. Right, Marvin?
Oui, Monsieur.
Snowbird is brought to you in part by Haven Furniture, Bluff City Autoplex, Oak Court Mall, and TV5.
Talking Memphis Wrestling with Randy Hill and special guests.
I'm as excited for this show than any other Talking Memphis Wrestling program we've ever done. Come on in. Stay a while. Talking Memphis Wrestling is on the air. I'm Randy Hills, again, excited, and I think everybody's going to be excited as well. And I think the main goal of this program is to teach Memphis wrestling history, and we're going to talk a little bit about an era we don't talk about very often. BC Collins is in the house, Al Tuttle in the house, Andrew and PJ and a bunch of folks, and he is the only one of the panelists here. Chris Ellis is out. He's out buying a truck. Pat Trammell is playing golf in Scotland. And in Alabama, man, he is the radio god of the state of Alabama. He is a big part of this show, and he has his first take today. Here's Michael St. John.
Hey, Randy. How you doing, man?
Good. How are you, Michael?
Had a great day. Had a great week so far. Hope everybody had a great 4th of July. I haven't talked to Pat, but I've communicated with him, and I hope he's teeing them high and letting them fly in Scotland and having a great time. I know he was at a beautiful church for a service on Sunday, one of the oldest in that part of the world. And it's good for everybody to join us. This is interesting. When you and I started talking about this, and we talked again earlier today, it's sort of an era that I was probably a little bit more involved, not only from behind the scenes, but on camera at Channel 5. And actually, it was a fun time. It was not the best of times, but it was a pretty good time as times turned out in the history of Memphis wrestling.
All right. Is that your first take of the day?
You betcha.
Let me make this comment, and I want you to respond to this, because we are going to start today and show what I think was the first bad thing that led to a downtime in Memphis wrestling. There's no doubt about that in my mind, but the 80s started great. Now, 1980, not so much. Jerry Lawler broke his leg. He was out. Even Jerry Jarrett was worried if the company would survive. It survived. Lawler came back in 81. Great year. In 1982, the Fabulous Ones were created. Great year. 83, Loser Leave, Lawler and Dundee. Great year. The best money year in the history of Memphis wrestling. 1984, main evented most of the year by Randy Savage, Jerry Lawler, and others. Then in 85, Tom Ernesto came in the book. Didn't work out. Bill Dundee came back. And then at the end of 85, beat Lawler in a loser leave town. In 86, Lawler came back. Jeff Jarrett debuted. In 87 was the Idol Rich Lawler, including that famous cage match we've talked about. 88, Lawler wins the AWA championship. Then 89, then we started working with World Class, and Jerry Jarrett and Jeff Jarrett started going down there most every week, and things changed around there. Before we go with our first video, and the number one thing I haven't said that affected Memphis wrestling, I think, for 5 years, We'll get to that in a minute, but a quick little look at 1980s, and Randy West is in the house, Jeremy Gibson, PJ saying hi to you, Al saying hello to you, Al saying hello to me, BC is saying hello to everybody. Michael, did I hit 1980 up to 1989? Did I hit that?
I think it was a good summary of the decade, and I think it was pretty much on target. A couple of things to add to that. We were going through in the United States a period of rebuild. You know, Ronald Reagan was president. We had good times. I mean, it was one of those things where everybody, the Berlin Wall came down. We were all sort of up tempo, if you would, and uplifted. And I think Memphis wrestling sort of all the way from the time that Jerry Jarrett started it until the time that it finally went away, it sort of reflected the times. And I think a lot of what was going on TV with the matches reflected the times that were going on in our world that surrounded us.
We're going to I'm not going to give this first video, Adam. It's the only one on the left side. I'll just say this, that I think this can't be overestimated by being a big cause and a big change of Memphis wrestling. It just can't. We're going to watch this video, and Adam, I'll tell you when to come out of it, and Michael and our viewers will watch. Here we go.
I'm Dave Brown here at ringside, ready to go with another day of championship wrestling action. Boy, today we got a six-man tag team match that won't quit for the expiration of time match today. We'll also see the Mason-Dixon connection in here in a tag team match. Jeff Jarrett will be here, too. And a new tag team that I think you will find most interesting to watch. They're called the Wrestling Machines. We'll have more to say about them a little bit later on. We are going to get underway here very shortly, but I do want to take just a moment of time to say something about someone who's very special to me, who spent many, many years sitting right here in this chair. Of course, I'm talking about none other than Lance Russell. Lance, as many of you may know, has accepted another job. Now, Lance and I have worked in the same building for 25 years. We've shared this desk for 22 years, so it's going to take some getting used to sitting here and not having Lance sitting beside us. Lance, to me, personally, has been everything from an acquaintance to a co-worker to a boss to a teacher. He's responsible for much of the success that I've been able to enjoy in this television business. And he's also, perhaps more importantly, a friend, and will continue to be a friend. He's also a great friend to championship wrestling fans. Lance had planned to be here today, but he started his new job early. And Lance, you know I wish you happiness, and I'm sure all the fans all around the territory wish you the very, very best. We'll be back in just a moment.
As we come out of that right now, and we'll come back to me. I'm Randy Hills, and this is Talking Memphis Wrestling. Michael, when you're able to come back on, send a message to
I'm good.
Adam.
I'm good.
And let's pop. Michael sent John back in. So do you agree with me that big change in Memphis wrestling as Lance started doing Channel 13 wrestling in the late 50s? Dave Brown in the middle 60s started teaming with them. They moved to Channel 5 in 1977. This was in March of 85. So your thoughts about that and its impact on Memphis wrestling?
I think it shook the wrestling world, especially in the Memphis area, by the eye teeth, because Lance was sort of the cornerstone of television in Memphis when it came to live television, especially with championship wrestling. And we've talked honestly beforehand of what a great program director he was at Channel 13. Then he went full time with the wrestling business when he joined Jerry Jarrett in 1977 and got Channel 5. And it was a snowball effect. And I think Lance was sort of into a point at his life where he was getting older. He was near or close to retirement age, and he had an opportunity, from what I understand, to make a lot of money, because recently, a lot has come out about WCW and Georgia Championship Wrestling, and that's where he went. And the fact of the matter is it was an open checkbook. They were writing checks for big money back then. And I think that was an opportunity. Lance said, well, okay, I've done it in Memphis. I've proved to myself, but one more time, let me see if I can do it on a bigger stage. He went there, and like we have talked about often, it was just not the puzzle piece fitting the puzzle correctly. Right. I'm not going to say round peg in a square hole or anything like that, but it was just one of those situations where it just wasn't the same, because Memphis tells stories, and Lance Russell was the ultimate storyteller. And having a man like Dave Brown at his right hand, there's nobody I respect more in the wrestling world today than Dave Brown. I would love to have him join us one Tuesday night on the show. But my point is, it really sort of it forced a change, if you would, of Memphis wrestling, because the change was forced because the look changed as to who the people on the screen were talking to you about Memphis wrestling.
I will say that I remember that. And Lance wanted to come to television. I don't know if you know this, Michael. Just business is business, and there was hurt feelings. We all had, because it was the point that the WrestleMania had happened and national wrestling was going on, and the territory wasn't doing real good at that time in 1985. Tom Renesso came in to book, and then Jerry Jarrett was helping him, but it was a little tough point in time, so our money was cut. I certainly understand that, and that's how Jerry Jarrett stayed in business. When business had its cycles and went down, he got the money. That's staying in business. And Michael, I'm sure you've done that in the radio station. Maybe you will cut 3 part-time people or cut a position. It's just a part of business. So Lance, who was approached by somebody in the WCW offices and the Turner offices, and they made a deal. And so he called Lawler and gave a notice and said, hey, I want to come and say my goodbyes to the people at the last television. And Lawler said, oh, no problem. And Lance said, you call Jerry Jarrett and tell him that I give him my notice, and I will do this next TV, or if he wants me to, I'll do 2. Well, Lawler called and said, hey, Lance is going to WCW, and Jarrett, of course, panicked. Oh my God, we'll go out of business. Oh my God. Lawler said, well, he'll be at TV. Say no goodbyes. And he said, Jarrett said, that son of a gun is leaving, and he don't care if we stay in business or not. Why should I put him on TV and let him say goodbye? I'm not going to let him plug WCW. Hell no, he can't come on this TV. So Lawler had to call Lance back. And, business is business. Lawler was upset about that. I was upset. Dave was real upset. But as you get older and you understand business, and you also have to make decisions after that. Now, I wanted to explain and see if you agree with that. The very first co-host later on in that day on the TV show that we saw was a heel announcer, Ronnie Gossett. Now, I did not think Ronnie did a great job, but did I think that he was the right person to follow Lance? Absolutely. Because as long as they went from a short period of time, I thought, what a way to build a heel manager. It just worked. And no matter what, people loved Lance. Lance was like a member of the family, without a doubt. And so whoever would come in as a co-host and a straight guy was going to have, I don't care who it was going to have a hard time. So in this period of time, Ronnie Gossett, George Klein, the Jeeker in the Speaker from WHBQ Radio, a big close friend of Elvis, Craig Johnson from Texas, Roger Webb, Corey Macklin eventually came as ring announcer, then announcer. And Adam, let me know when this video is queued and we see a appearance. And I don't know if this is the first appearance, but let's see what kind of Yahoo showed up on our television. Here we go. Warning, this is a different look than you normally see every week on Talking Memphis Wrestling from MSJ. Warning. Hey, Nate. Hey, Tanner. Hey, Frank. Hey, Randy Dandy. I'm excited about what's coming up next.
Welcome into Championship Wrestling. Hello, everybody. I'm Michael St. John. I'll be your commentator today, and I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, okay, first Lance Russell, then Dave Brown, but wait a minute. Dave will be back. Dave is on vacation this week, but we'll have all the wrestling action for you today, and boy, do we have some good matches in our studio. In action, you'll see Billy Travis. He'll be teaming up with that outstanding superstar, Action Jackson. Also on the card, we have the Stud Stable. I'm afraid Ronald P. Gossett IV is going to come by here, too. You can't miss that guy when he walks in. Also in action a little bit later on, the Unified World Heavyweight Champion, Jerry the King Lawler, will be in the ring today. Lots of action, lots of excitement coming up. You stay right with us. We'll be back for the action right after this.
And we come out of that, and that was not Michael St. John's first showing on television, of course, but it was his first appearance at the desk. First of all, Michael, we're going back to that date, and as I am trying to get a date, that was from June the 3rd, 1989. Your thoughts as we go back in history?
Well, I was fresh out of Phoenix, Arizona, had moved back to Nashville, had joined a group that were in the process of buying some radio stations that unfortunately never panned out. But anyway, that was when I was first. Randy West, I think, is on with us tonight, and Randy can attest to this. When I was first told that I'd be doing it solo, my first thought was that's a big shoe to fill, because Dave had done such a great job filling in since Lance had left, and I wanted to come up with something where people that were watching wouldn't say, "Oh my God, here's this guy." And they'd seen me in, interviews and promos and things like that before. But like you said, first time on the desk alone. And I just really wanted to come up as not the guy that was going to be the heir apparent, but the guy that was just warm and keeping the seat warm until the good boys came back. And I can remember I had a lot of butterflies. In fact, I rode down with Jerry Jarrett and Tojo and the great Eddie Marlin and Jerry said, "Hey, you'll do fine. Don't worry. You'll just do fine. You'll do fine." But I can tell you 30 seconds, when I got that 30-second cue before I went on the air, there was that lump, that you get sort of right here. And I'm just glad I got through it without stumbling and bumbling my way through it. And looking back, I can see my hairline is a little bit further back, but not as bad as I thought.
Hey, as we were seeing that, and this was a time period that Lance was on, not the only person mad. I had left as well. But that set, I don't remember that set. What were your thoughts about that look on the set? I thought right then seeing it, I thought it looked pretty good.
I think it looked really professional. I always liked, that's the one thing I always liked about Memphis wrestling, is that the set was always appropriate. And, at one time they had the set with the two grapplers, the drawing that Jerry Lawler did in the background. I always loved that CWA logo. In fact, if you look at the Fun 92.7 logo, there's a lot in common. Look at that CWA logo, and you look at this logo, there's a lot in common, believe it or not. And I always loved that CWA logo, and that's, you see, and then, of course, that has a lot more professional, and that's more of that chrome look, if you would. But if you look at the outlines and you look at these kind of things, whatever they call them, those accent marks, CWA was an inspiration for me, and I always liked that. I like the CWA logo better than the USWA logo, although the USWA logo, I think, got more appeal to it as time went on.
Now, Coquina72 asking a question, but before that, I want to say hello to Greg Wayne. Greg in the house, and said hello to everybody. Thomas Lemon, of course, is in the house. Now, to the question from Cotina, he wants to know which wrestling organizations did Michael announce for?
Boy, I don't even think I can really do justice by remember them all. I was always an independent contractor, and I just, for no other reason than I had a permanent job as a radio programmer and a manager. So, my TV work was something I enjoyed doing, but I didn't want a contractual in. But it started with the NWA, and Nick Goulas was with UWA. With Randy Savage and Randy and his dad, Angelo Poffo. Of course, CWA, USWA, WCCW. There's it's like alphabet soup anymore. SAW, most recently, Southern Championship Wrestling, quite a few of them. But I always tried to do and come off professionally and do the best job I could, no matter who I was working for. And even to this point in my career, and the fact that I'm working for ourselves at our radio station, it's the same thing. I want to wake up in the morning, my boots hit the ground, and I'm ready to go. And I want to do the best job possible each and every day. And I tried to do that for the wrestling company, no matter whether they were paying me $10 or paying me as well as Jerry Jarrett did back in the day.
Now, in 1983, we had the big loser leave town match, June the 6th, 1983. Jerry Lawler, Bill Dundee. Jerry Lawler had been in the Memphis territory since around 72. Bill Dundee came in 85 or in 75, as a matter of fact. They were the two mainstays. Lawler won. Bill Dundee was going to book for a NWA promotion affiliated with Georgia Championship Wrestling out of Atlanta. Ole Anderson at that time was running Georgia Championship Wrestling, and he wanted a satellite territory, and was talking to Jerry Jarrett, and Jerry Jarrett, who had recently given the book over to Lawler and thought it would be a good time for Dundee to venture out on his own. And you go from there, because it was in Chattanooga, Tennessee, and you were in the spot that for many, many years, and I think, if memory serves me right, the same studio, and this could be wrong, you can explain, that Harry Thornton did for so long. So, Michael, we can't forget that. We can't forget the Chattanooga run, when you might want to forget it, but that's a part of your story.
Well, it was supposed to be a longer run than it turned out to be, but it was not from anybody's fault. It was just for the fact that the two people putting it together had different views on how it needed to be. And Bill Dundee, God bless him, he was a trooper, and he did the very best he could to try to satisfy everybody. But actually, it was not. I had actually done some shows at Channel 12 after Harry Thornton had his heart attack in the Goulas era. And it was not. It was at Channel 3. It was at WRCB, Channel 3. And the studio was a bit smaller than Channel 12's. The ring was a little bit smaller. And I can remember it. The thing that gets me, whenever I think about that, I worked with two of the biggest characters in the history of wrestling, in my opinion. I had the honor of working with the exotic Adrian Street and Miss Linda, and I had the honor of calling the first on-camera TV match of a manager by the name of Jim Cornette. And I will never, ever, those 6 or 7 weeks that Georgia/Memphis wrestling merged together in Chattanooga, Tennessee. If nothing else, I'll ever take to my grave. I'll take to my grave the fact that I got to work with Adrian Street in his prime, and then I got to work with my good friend, and yours as well, Jimmy Cornette.
When I first started watching wrestling, it was on Channel 13. It's America's favorite sport on WHBQ television. Then I started watching Channel 5. So that's the two wrestlings that I watched. And then, of course, you get cable TV and all that deal. So when I first started watching on Channel 13, it was studio wrestling. Then in the early days from Channel 5, it was called TV5 Wrestling or Championship Wrestling. Then it became the CWA, and we showed that CWA logo. And let's do that again, Adam. Let's put that up there. Championship Wrestling Association, the CWA logo. And for many years, it was the CWA. Then earlier, we were talking, and this toward the end of 89, start of 80, we were working, and Jerry Jarrett was working with World Class Wrestling, and there was going to be a merger. And the person that announced that merger is, we're going to take a look at that video right now. See all the faces and the great video. My buddy Randy West put that together. And now watch this. This is a unusual opening. Very unusual.
Hello, wrestling fans, and welcome into CWA Championship Wrestling. I'm Michael St. John, and I got to tell you, I am excited today because I have the privilege and the pleasure of announcing one of the most historic announcements ever in professional wrestling. And you fans of the CWA are quite aware of the great talent and the great support that the CWA has had over the past several decades here throughout the area. Well, now a very special announcement, as two great wrestling organizations have come together for the decade of the 90s. I'm talking about a merger between the CWA and all the fine stars that you've seen in the CWA for all these many years. They have merged with the USWA, a worldwide wrestling company. And boy, there cannot be anything more exciting and a better way to start the decade than a great merger of two great wrestling companies. I want to call in promoter Eddie Marlin to give you some information and some background. Hello, Eddie. Good to see you. And boy, I see a happy smile on your face.
Sir, I'm telling you what's right. I know the fans know out there that my job is to bring the best talent available anywhere in the world. And we've been negotiating for 3 or 4 months. Sometimes it got tough. I thought it was going down the drain, but we were successful, and we merged. And let me tell you, we're merging with a company that's in the world-famous Sportatorium in Dallas. Their home office is in Dallas. They have wrestling in 120 cities over the country. Goodness. They're going to join with the CWA. Our favorite wrestlers from the CWA will be right here with them, but we can bring in top-notch wrestlers from all over the world, and that is our job. The CWA and the USWA is going to be together, and we're going to make 1990 the biggest thing that's ever happened to wrestling anywhere in the country.
Well, it's just an opportunity at the decade of the 90s to see not only the great stars that you've seen in the CWA all along, but the additional of all these great new stars from the
USWA bring in the World Tag Team Champions. All the great stars is going to be seen right here on live television, just like the television live in Memphis. It's going to be a great 1990.
Boy, what an announcement. The USWA and the CWA. Eddie Marlin, boy, you've done yourself one better, I'll tell you. The USWA, the CWA merged together. We'll tell you about all these great action, all these great matches coming up on the program today, and a lot more. We'll be joining Mark Lawrence in Dallas live. Much, much more right here on Championship Wrestling right after these messages.
As we come back to us right now, Randy Ellis and Michael St. John doing it to it on July the 9th of the year 2024. Now, you've spoke of this before. I obviously wasn't around, and I want you to speak of the fact that they wanted you, as you said that you were going to, first of all, I'm assuming you were at Randy West there doing those pre-tapes, and they wanted you to act like you were live and pitch to Mark Lawrence in Texas like he was live. And technology these days and times, easy peasy. Back then, not so much. So How did you feel watching that again? And we've seen it before on this program, but I thought it was good. I thought you did great, and I thought that Eddie did well as well.
I regret that my ex-wife sold that red jacket at a garage sale. I would probably still wear it, the red jacket. I forgot all about the red jacket. But you know, the thing about it is it was real. I mean, the whole deal was real. There was a real merger. It was really happening. Eddie was excited. I was excited. Jerry, I know, had been working with it with Fritz rather, and it was big things. It was big news. The thing about the merger that a lot of people probably may or may not know is that the WCCW, World Class Championship Wrestling, had a superstation that was carrying their program. Back in those days, the satellite television was coming to be a big deal with the public, and you had 5 major superstations across the country. You had WSPK in Boston, Channel 2, I believe it was, or it may have been WBZ. But you had WOR in New York was a superstation. You had TBS in Atlanta. You had KTTB, Channel 11 in Dallas. And then you had KT something else in San Francisco. And then later on, you had Los Angeles, Channel 5 in LA, and then there was a Denver station. But the original 5 all had wrestling. WOR in New York and the station up in Boston had Vince Senior's company. Georgia Championship Wrestling was on in Georgia, and WCCW was on in Dallas. And I think later they got on in San Francisco. So there was a national audience already developing for the Texas wrestling, for the Fritz's company. And Jerry, I think, saw the writing on the wall that it was grow and survive, or stay where you are and gradually shrink. And I think that's kind of what his thoughts were about merging with World Class. The one thing World Class had that perhaps nobody else except the AWA had at the time, and I think they may have gotten the contract from AWA at the time, and come to think of it, was they were on ESPN. And they were on at midnight on Saturday night going into Sunday morning. So it's not the best time on that little mascot behind me, that banner behind me, but they were on what became the 10,000-pound gorilla in the room for sports on ESPN. So I think that all led to it. But at the same time, it was survival for Memphis by growth. And for Dallas, it was survival because somebody on a white horse rode in to basically save a company that was on its way and on its hind legs and about ready to roll over.
Now, at this point, we're getting through the 90s, and in 90s, certainly, and as Adam says, Memphis had FSN at one time, right? Yes. I wasn't hearing that right at the time, so I don't know, Michael.
Yeah, it was a regional, so it was one of the regional sports networks that was coming on satellite TV back then.
1993 was an interesting year. For most of the year, business wasn't very good, but Jerry Jarrett had started talking to Vince McMahon weekly, every Sunday, and that led into a lot of stuff going on. It led into Jerry Lawler going up to the WWF, becoming an announcer, becoming a part of Monday Night Raw. It led Jerry Jarrett going up there to work in the office. As a matter of fact, when he first got up there, he lived in Vince McMahon's house. Then Jeff Jarrett went up there. So all of a sudden in 1993, Jerry Jarrett was booking and Jeff was helping. Jerry Jarrett went first, so Jeff booked about 2 weeks, and then they hired Jeff, and Jeff went off. And so think of this at the time. Lawler was gone a lot because of the WWF commitments. Jerry Jarrett would not be booking or running the business anymore, and Jeff Jarrett, who was the workhorse, was in every town. Now, the WWF tried to help out by sending talent, and they sent great talent like The Undertaker and like Shawn Michaels and so many, but that just helped Memphis. That didn't help Louisville. That didn't help Evansville. That didn't help Nashville or Jonesboro or Hopkinsville or anything else. Not anything else at all. So it was a tough time. So this is what Jerry Lawler did. Jerry Lawler switched immediately, knowing the top full-time babyface in the territory was Jeff Jarrett. He was going away. So Lawler switched Brian Christopher babyface and started off there. PG-13 was an underneath deal. We had Eddie Gilbert. We had different talent. We were kind of hit and miss, but not so good. I looked at some cards. This was in 93. I looked back in 93 and the attendance at the Mid-South Coliseum, Michael, 625 people. That's not with WWE talent. So that's the problem. They were, we would draw, but we couldn't have WWF talent all the time. So that's when, and I hope you have notes. All right, because I will look at my notes to see exactly. It will be on page 2. That's when I came in at the end of 93 as the assistant booker and would go to the towns Lawler didn't go to. And I came up with an idea because I knew how business bad, and I thought it needed to be hot-shotted, but hot-shotted in a way to really follow up on it. And we came up with the idea, or I came up with the idea, Monday Night Memories. Randy West and I was talking today, and neither one of us, Michael, have ever worked so hard in our life. In a little bit, I'll show the Monday Night Memories video Jimmy Hart did the music for. Randy edited, and it was in a snowstorm, an ice storm there, and it was snowing. I thought Randy was crazy. It was snowing, it was icing, it was crazy. I was spending the night with I was still living in Jonesboro, but I was spending the night with him to work on the videos and get ready for the TV. This wasn't the go home show. This was in February because I was going to show some sneak peeks and previews for Monday Night Memories, and it was worth the deal there. So I'm in the office, and Randy had gone outside. He come back in, started yelling at me, Randy, move your, he didn't say the F word anyway. He said, move your car now. Move your car. I said, are you crazy? He said, no. He said, the ice storm, you're parked right under a tree. Move the car. So Randy West saved that 1992 Cadillac. No, yeah, it was 1992 Cadillac, Michael St. John, because it wasn't too long after I moved that car in a safe area, that tree came down, and you know what would have happened there. That wouldn't have been good at all. Randy and I worked so hard on this event, really, really hard. I appreciate Jerry Lawler for giving me the green light to do it. I did the television, booked the card, the whole deal. And this was Monday Night Memories on March the 7th, 1994. March the 7th, 1994 at the Mid-South Coliseum in Memphis, Tennessee. And Michael St. John will go full screen, and I'll go away so it can be. And we also have graphics if you want to match the graphics on there, Adam. We have those that might correspond with some of this information. Here is the great MSJ.
Well, that was one hell of an idea, Randy. I'll tell you that it was a lifesaver for the for the USWA. I don't think there's any doubt about it. It added new life to what the Memphis wrestling history ended up being. But March 7th of 1994, live from the Mid-South Coliseum in Memphis, Tennessee, the opening match, the Nightmares, Danny Davis, one of the Nightmares, and Ken Wayne, with Skull Von Crush against Spellbinder, King Cobra, and Jeff Gaylord. We talked about Jeff Gaylord a week or so ago. I think he was one of the most underrated talents to come through Memphis, and unfortunately his career did not pan very well from there. Spellbinder, I forget who he became in the WWE or WCW, but big guy with King Cobra. JC Ice versus Wolfie D. There had been a little tension in the faction there. And so former partners up against each other in the second match. Coco Beware against Billy Travis, another guy that just did tremendous work in the Memphis territory. And unfortunately, we lost him too early. Wildfire Tommy Rich against the Boogie Woogie Man, Handsome Jimmy Valiant. The Moondogs against Dr. Frank and Leatherface, two of Jerry Lawler's movie characters that he turned into wrestlers in that match. Jerry Lawler, Austin Idol, and Brian Christopher, six-man tag against Terry Funk, Doug, and Eddie Gilbert. I'm telling you, this card was loaded for the Mid-South Coliseum. The Parade of Legends plus Class 1 of the Memphis Wrestling Hall of Fame, Lance Russell, Sam Bass in memorandum, Tojo Yamamoto, Al and Don Green, Sputnik Monroe, all inducted. Of course, Tojo and Sam posthumously inducted into the first class of the Memphis Wrestling Hall of Fame. Then a 10-man Best of Memphis match, like a battle royal. In the match, Jerry the King Lawler, Handsome Jimmy Valiant, Brian Christopher, Austin Idol, Terry Funk, Eddie and Doug Gilbert, Tommy Rich, Moondog Spot, Coco Ware. Match went 42 minutes, and guess who turned out on top? Jerry the King Lawler. I'm telling you, Randy, that was that was fireworks. That was not the grand finale. That was the grand beginning of a new life for Memphis wrestling, all because of Monday Night Memories, an idea you had.
At the top of right before the first match that you read, there's a attendance figure and the gross house figure. If you would share that with the
attendance figure was at 8,800. Now, you mentioned a few minutes ago that it was down to 650 people. Now you draw 8,800. I'm sure there were a few more in the building as well. The house gate was $30,000.
What would be in today's money, do you think? Double?
Well, I'm not a mathematician. That is not one of my strong suits. Or an economist, but I'm sure somebody out there with the rate of inflation can figure that one out. But that, I'll tell you, for 1994, that was daggum good money.
Now, I think we all agree. Michael, do you agree with the fact that's a hell of a card?
Oh, unbelievable. Unbelievable. The talent is just, and the great thing about it is you had a mix of some young folks in there that were coming into the area, but also you had some standard bearers when you're talking Tommy Rich and the Gilberts and you're talking about Brian Christopher and Austin Idol and, of course, the King, Jerry Lawler, Billy Travis, Wolfie and JC Ice. I don't remember. Now, I was in Los Angeles when this all came about, so I was not privy to Memphis wrestling during this time. But I never realized that JC Ice and Wolfie D actually split up and had matches against each other, because that'd be a hell of a match of its own.
Yeah, and people didn't want to see that. They were already getting over as a mid-card deal. That changed, and we will talk USWA and Smoky Mountain a little later on, folks, and we will deep dive. We're not going to get through all that story today. But the one thing I wanted to do is certainly, as Adam did the inflation calculator, $63,000 now.
So double plus.
Yes, that is absolutely fantastic. That, Michael, I was in charge of everything, the finances and everything. Jerry Lawler called me and said, "Have you sent the payoffs in?" I said yes. And he said, "Did you take care of yourself?" I said yes. He said, "How much?" I said, "Well, you told me to take care of myself." He said, "I know. I just want to know how much you took care of yourself with." And I said, "I paid myself $225. And
wow.
And then I said, "Fair?" He said, "Fair," but he didn't seem too excited about it. When I got my check a week later for Memphis only, $1,000. He called Deborah Jarrett. Jerry was gone. He called Deborah, and we'll tell a story about that. One of the things I thought the key to this whole thing was not just the card. I thought it was Lance Russell. So I went out Deering Road and I went to talk to Lance, and Lance's wife was there, and she was anti Lance Russell ever working for Jerry Jarrett again or working with Jerry Jarrett again. Very anti. Now, in years after that, they did personal appearances together, and those bad times were hashed over, and they were in good shape after that. But at this particular time, Lance and Audrey was saying, if Jerry Jarrett's going to be there, and I said, hey, Jerry Jarrett lives in New York. Jerry Jarrett hadn't been to the Coliseum since September. This is March. He will not be there. And Lance said, well, if you can assure me, and Audrey said too, if you can assure me Jerry Jarrett's not going to be there, then that's fine. Love to do it. And I said, how about money? Whatever you think. He didn't negotiate for money at all. He said, whatever you think. He was excited about it. I wanted a TV and the Monday night out of him and all that stuff. Now, the funny thing about this, we had Lance do TV March the 5th. Later on that night, Lawler called me. Eddie Marlin had got home from TV, and Jerry Jarrett had come home to see Jason play football or some kind of support. And so Eddie was telling him about the TV and about the card. So Jerry Jarrett called Lawler mad at me, saying, Randy Hills didn't even call me and put me on the card. And Lawler knew the thing about Lance. He said, well, he knew you live in Connecticut. And Jerry says, well, do I need to call Randy and ask him if I can come? And Lawler said, no, you can come. I'll tell Randy. So he called me and told me and said, don't panic. I got the idea. He said, I'll call Lance. We don't need Lance to think you were lying to him. I said, no, I'll call Lance. So I did and explained the thing. I said, he doesn't have anything to do with anything, but he's coming to watch because he knows it's going to be a big house and a lot of the guys he hadn't seen in a long time. It made a lot of sense that he was there. It really did. So before I get into a video, I want you just to comment on that setup. I think I've said that before. Were you aware of any of that?
Oh yes. There was bad blood, if you would, on both sides. Yes. And I think and time heals all those little, and I'm not going to say it was a petty argument at the time, but it turns out to be a petty argument, and it's, this guy did this guy did that. I got burned by this guy. But later in life, as time goes on, you realize there are bigger battles to fight. And you also remember that, if you're a believer in the good book and you're the believer in the faith of whatever faith you believe, there's forgiveness in every faith, no matter what faith you pick. And I'm not trying to get on a religious kick here, but no matter what faith you belong to, there is a forgiveness element in faith. So I think that all sort of came to fruition. Were they all bosom buddies after that? Were they golfing buddies or tennis buddies or boating buddies or anything after that? No. But I think that they just let bygones be bygones and let's live out our lives, and both lived out a very, very good life.
And that happens in the radio business, as well as the Sonic business, as well as the Uber business, any business. It just does. One of the biggest regrets I have, Michael, is that March the 5th, that day, the Go Home TV show for Monday Night Memories is the most important TV show of my life that I booked and I put together. Remember, I wasn't the booker. I was the assistant booker, but Lawler said, my idea, you put it together. So I put it together. One of the regrets I have is this was March the 5th, 1994, and the quality of this video is horrifying. I would normally not show this on this program. So everybody, if you think your screen, your computer, your phone's messed up, this video, I think the audio works good. And it was just a fantastic deal. And the key to this, I'll tell you one other key real quick. right before the show, Waller came up to me and said, I have an idea. You don't have to do it. I said, what's the idea? He said, you'll think I'm crazy. And I said, no, tell me the idea, knowing it was his call anyway. I mean, if he wanted it done, he could just do it. But he sold it and it made sense. He said, we're sold out of Golden Circle. We're sold out of Ringside. Lowe's is looking good. He said, but what will make the difference, Randy, is general admission. Just like the good old day, every seat full or most of them. He said, my idea is to it's a rollback show. Said, let's roll back the prices. General admission tickets, $3. And I said, sounds great to me. So that could have done more. I don't know if we'd have as many people as we would have had, the close to 9,000 people. I just don't know, but that did help put people in there and put money in there. So that's another thing. Did you know that story?
I did not know that. I did not know about the rollback in prices, but I do know that I know that was an exciting time and, again, a rebirth. And, again, the talent speaks for itself.
Adam Dunn is directing and producing this show today, and we'll just go on this till I say come out of it. I know, folks, be prepared. Be prepared for bad picture quality, but this is something, Michael, I'm going to get teared up thinking about this, because this success of this show, you think I'd have ever got the booking job if this show would have been successful? It was all on the line for me, for sure. And we'll watch this video right now. The Monday Night Memories Go Home Show from March the 5th, 1994.
It takes you back, and for 21 years, I worked with a man who, for 30 years, used to open the championship wrestling show. Here's how Lance Russell did it.
Hello again, everybody. Lance Russell and Dave Brown.
You like how I did this?
We're ready to go with
Absolutely.
Big day.
Absolutely.
Championship wrestling
It's
action.
like a
We got plenty of
flashback.
wrestling scheduled today.
Hey, yes, we do. We got plenty of wrestling scheduled today. We also have something very special scheduled for you today. We promised you last week. Get ready, fans. Not only one of the greatest wrestling announcers of all time, probably the greatest in my mind, my friend.
I told him to play the regular USWA Feud, the old classic theme, and then the director messed up. What makes the mess up? This was Randy Savage's entrance music, and it fit. Listen to Lance.
Welcome to this program, Lance Russell. How are you doing?
I tell you, Dave, I am overwhelmed. It is such a delight to be back here. Absolutely.
It's a thrill for us to have you here. I know you worked in various other things, and now you're retired. You're doing a lot of fishing and all that?
A little golf and trying to get all those jobs caught up, those honeydew jobs, and it takes some time to do that. You bet.
Can we put you to work here today?
You better.
Come on back around.
I like this little
Sit down.
deal. Listen, watch this, Michael.
I tell you what. Hey, no. I want to put you belong over here. This is your chair. Let me give you this microphone.
That was good.
Thank you, Dave.
Yeah, and I'll be right here. And let's go. Let's see. What do we have coming up here? We've got a couple of things coming up. But I think we better do that famous thing like take a break first, all right?
Why don't we do that?
All right. We'll be back in just a moment with more Memphis Memories.
If he drives great for us, a thoroughbred, a champion, and he breaks his leg, what do you do to him? What do you do to him, Lance?
I did that
You
bumpers
shoot him, right?
throughout the show.
Oh, with the big
heart.
Memphis Memory
Now
show
listen
right
to
here.
Eddie's interview.
Marlin,
This
it is
cell
so
stick-
good to
Boy,
see
I'm
you, my
telling you,
friend.
it's good to see you, Dave. It really brings back memories. And you know, Lance, where I'm out of here, I travel all over the country to these smaller towns and all, and everybody says, what's the prices? You've got such a big night of wrestling in Memphis. I know the prices are going to be way up. This is Memphis Memories. This goes back in the 60s, 70s, 50s,
Yeah.
So in order to make this complete, our prices will be established on those that was in the Memories. And it was about 1974. It wouldn't be at Memphis Memories if all of that Coliseum wasn't jam-packed up top like it always is, in the 70s and 80s. So Memphis Memories night, general admission is $3.
Wow.
$3.
Hey, who said this guy didn't have a big heart?
$5 for the load, $6 for the ringside. And to make it complete, like I say, it needs to be full all the way to the top, where it not only see guys like this, see a lot of the old-time fans up there that used to come when Eddie Marlin was wrestling.
We hope they will.
Thank
Hey,
you very much.
Jimmy Hart used to talk about how tight Eddie Marlin is. I don't believe that holds
We're not
true
going to be
anymore.
tight that night. Memphis,
Okay,
Memphis,
Eddie.
Monday night.
Thank you for that very good news.
Boy, that's great. The prices we thought were a memory, too.
That
The
picture,
price
Michael,
rollback,
with Lance and Dave side by
70s
side
level, that
after
is
5
spectacular,
years.
and
It
that
had been
means
5 years.
everybody
What do you
can come
think?
on down.
Everybody.
What
can
I'm
join us
catching
right
is
down there, and I
Lance
think
got
that would be a good
right
thing
into
if
the
Eddie
rhythm of the
said he
show
we had it filled
as if
right
he
to
never
the
missed
top,
a
'cause I
day.
remember those good old
He,
days.
right after
Okay,
Dave
we,
announced him,
are set
all of a
ready,
sudden you
Dave,
see
to
Lance is taking
check
over
the
as
future. Oh,
the
I
lead
know,
in the
talking
show,
about, I mentioned
which
him
is
just
the
a
way it
moment
should have been.
ago,
Awesome.
Jimmy
Awesome.
Hart, this guy probably gave us as much trouble as anybody. I have one very fond memory of it, flour draining down
And this
all.
is not
Jimmy Hart, the one
announcer-esque.
thing
This
I
is
have never said bad
conversational.
about
This
him,
is
and
the
that
beauty of
about
Lance
his music.
Russell.
He is quite
Absolutely.
a songwriter. And Jimmy, with his heart still in Memphis wrestling, off and running somewhere else, but he has written a song called Monday Memories, and I think anybody who has ever been touched by Memphis wrestling on Monday night will really appreciate it. We also want to thank Randy West, who did a fabulous job of putting together the video for
He
us.
always puts together great video for us. He's done a super job these last few weeks, along with Randy Hales.
And it is indeed a pleasure to introduce for the first.
And they pitched to it, and we will show the Monday Night Memories video in just a minute, and you get to just kind of talk about what we just saw and give me about 20 seconds, 25 seconds to get that video uploaded on the program, Michael. So we go full screen, Michael St. John.
Well, you can't get any better than Lance and Dave at their best. And to be two people that had not worked together on the set in 5 years, to put them back together and not miss a beat. I mean, that was incredible. That's just from somebody that has had to hire and judge and school talent, if you would, on radio for many, many years. It's sometimes when you bring people back together and you put the old team back together, there's maybe a little rub, maybe a little rust, and you have to knock it off. There was nothing to knock off there. It was Dave being Dave and Lance being Lance, and here we go. We're right back. That opening and that segment could have been placed in 1984, 1974, and it would have accomplished the same thing, which it did, and it sold tickets, and it put a warm spot in your heart. And I guarantee you there are probably folks watching this right now that, just watching that and knowing the legacy of these two fine Hall of Famers, incredible, just incredible.
And I think what we're going to do is that Jimmy Hart, I tried to book on this show. He was working for WCW. They said no, and I was disappointed, but we hung up. I remember right now I was in Jonesboro. He called me on a Sunday afternoon and told me he couldn't do it, but he said, let me call you back. I have an idea. He called me back in a couple of hours, and he played a tape recording, and then he sent it to me, and then I gave that tape recording to Randy West, and he did an unbelievable job. This is the video that we probably showed more on this show than any others, but I want everybody to, and our microphones will be hot on this. This couldn't have been better in any aspect, and I'll tell you what Jerry Lawler's reaction was. I wouldn't let Lawler see it at all. He never saw the format till he got to TV, and he did not know at all anything. Jimmy Hart recently on Jonesboro Radio, I haven't told Adam this, but was on Front Row with Bud Rowe, and in that interview, no, it was an interview with Brandon, and Brandon, I was a little hot at him because he didn't defend me because he knew that it was my show. But anyway, Jimmy Hart was on that radio, and Brandon played the Monday Night Memory song. Then Jimmy Hart said, yes, Jerry Jarrett called me, and Jerry Jarrett wanted me to do the show, and I couldn't do the show, blah, blah, blah. It was like I wasn't even alive. No mention of me. It was all credit to Jerry Jarrett. And Jerry Jarrett certainly at that point that I was talking to Hart. Didn't even know the show was going to take place at all. See, I get a little knock in for Jimmy Hart. So Adam's smiling ear to ear. He likes it when I throw things in when it hits me that certain way. Anyway, we will watch the Monday Night Memory video that Randy West put together. Jimmy Hart did the music and wrote the lyrics. This also helped fill up the Mid-South Coliseum Monday Night Memories.
Found a program stuck back in my drawer. It was faded, it was torn. I couldn't wait till I looked inside. Some are gone, some are still alive. I watched them every Saturday on TV. I couldn't wait till they
Lawler did that drawing for me. That's Tojo and Jarrett and Phil Hickerson and Al Green, I believe, that match. Maybe it was Sam Bass, the picture again.
Jerry Lawler, he's the king. Austin Idol, super.
This is why Randy West is the best video editor. No offense, Adam, but he's sensitive, you know.
Acted like a silly fool.
Look at those edits. He had a lot of video to look through. Just fantastic job by Randy West. Not like he's my best printer or anything, but what the hell? If he did a bad job, I might not say it on this program, but I wouldn't say he didn't do. If this wasn't great, I wouldn't say it. Hart deserves a lot of credit with the verbiage, the music.
Sputnik Monroe, Don and Al Green, the Gilberts and the Funks. I thought they were so mean. I watched them every Saturday on TV. I couldn't wait till they climbed in the ring. Monday Night Memories are all I have to remind me of you. Jerry Jarrett, Tojo Yamamoto, when he died, it hurt me so. Eddie Marlin, Buddy Wayne, Guy Coffey, hope they never change. Lance Russell, they call Banana Nose. Dave Brown was his sidekick, everybody knows. Monday Night Memories are all I have to remind me of you. Monday Night Memories are all I have to remind me of you.
Makes me almost cry every time I see that. Before we turn it over to Michael to give us some time while I put the other video up there. Once I get the video loaded, Adam, Q2, 1 hour and 23 minutes in. 1 hour, 23 minutes in. While we do this, Michael, I want you to react to what you just saw. Then on the second page of the notes, at the bottom is the Night to Remember card. I had Chris Ellis figured to read this. So anytime it says read by Chris, he's not here. So it's read by Michael. So we'll have you do that. This Michael St. John reacting to Monday Night Memories. This show so far, an hour in, and I'll be working on getting some video up there as Michael goes full screen.
Well, Randy, first of all, I thought Jimmy Hart did a wonderful job. I mean, listen to the simplicity of that song. It's basically a piano and a little orchestration later, but he did a great job with the lyrics of that song. And Jimmy is a great songwriter. I mean, there's no doubt about it. The part that gets me is when they talk about Tojo and I can remember I think we all had that same horrible feeling in that pit of our stomach when we heard that Tojo had passed. But all in all, a great, to quote our good friend out of East Tennessee, Bo James, we whooped him again, Josie, with that video. I'm telling you, that's incredible. But it tells a story, and it tells a story of a passionate fan base. It tells a story of Dave Wells says this all the time. It's real to me. Wrestling is real to us as Memphis wrestling fans, because it was real to us. It was stories. It was life stories. It was human being stories. It was good against evil. It was all of that put into the melting pot. It was Memphis wrestling, and Memphis memories of wrestling is sort of like Mayberry. If you grew up in a small town or live in a small town, you always compare it to Mayberry because of the Andy Griffin Show. Well, Memphis wrestling at Channel 5 was a very local, colloquial program of Mayberry, but it told, instead of about being a small town in the Carolinas, it told about being wrestlers on the bluff city of Memphis, Tennessee. And the folks that, people talk about ECW being the biggest cult of wrestling fans in the history of wrestling. I disagree. I think the biggest cult, and I'm using the word cult in a good way, the biggest collection of appreciation of fans about a specific wrestling territory that award has to go to Memphis, Tennessee, and Memphis wrestling, Memphis Championship Wrestling. We all knew it. We all loved it. It was part of us. And the great part about it is we saw the Memphis action, whether you lived in Nashville or Louisville or Chattanooga or Lexington or Bowling Green or Tupelo or Jonesboro. You saw it. And it was part of your life, and it was real to you, to quote my good friend Dave Wills. So that's my comments. I mean, when I see something like this, it just rekindles the passion and the fire, I think, of not only myself, but all of us have about Memphis memories.
Let's go to page 2 of the note, the Night to Remember card, and there's a line in there somewhere when you get to the Parade of Legends that has you pitching to the video, and so you will see that cue. But I want you to read this card. I believe this was on the 11th day of June, the Louisville Gardens. You have the attendance and the gross money for that. And here once again is Michael St. John.
Well, the attendance was 6,400 people, another $30,000 card. That was because there was an increase in prices from the previous card. The Night to Remember at Louisville Gardens, Gorgeous George III against Super Mario. And I'm not familiar with Super Mario. I guess it was a character, a Lawler invention.
No,
character.
that was Jimmy Valiant's driver. It was the worst wrestling match I've ever seen in 50 years of watching wrestling. It was horrible. Horrible. And I thought, oh my God, thank God Jerry Jarrett wasn't out there watching that. It was horrible. Gorgeous George III was great, and he was a great hand, ended up in WCW. So go ahead with Gorgeous the card George from A Night to Remember in Louisville, Kentucky. All
right, let me reread that again. Gorgeous George III against Jim Brony. Debbie Combs in a ladies match against Miss Texas. I got news for you, Randy. I'd pay to see that one because Debbie Combs could work her butt off. I mean, her mama trained her great, and Debbie was a hell of a worker. And Miss Texas, that is the toughest one lady I have ever met in my life. She was about that tall, and she didn't weigh more than than I do, and I'm a skinny little dude. And I'm telling you, Jackie was incredible, just incredible. So
let me interrupt you right now, and just a production note to Adam. Somebody is saying, Tanner is saying the video's frozen. If you could check on your monitors to see if we are frozen, or if anybody else want to mention. Also, Bo says at one time he was Handsome's driver. Mario was Handsome Jimmy's friend for many years. So apparently Bo drove Handsome Jimmy Valiant there to the matches that night. So I'll quit interrupting you, but things just keep coming that I want to add to it. Obviously, this is my baby too.
I love it. Hey, you can interrupt me anytime. Listen, we have a great audience. They've gotten some great comments tonight. I wish we could address them all. But yeah, if Bo James would have been in that match, that'd have been a hell of a match between him and Gorgeous George III. All right, so Debbie Combs against Miss Texas. The Smoky Mountain title had Buddy Landell against Tracy Smothers. You know, there's somebody, I always had such a great affinity for Buddy Landell. Buddy Landell, unfortunately, had things in his life that interrupted his career as a wrestler, but one heck of a wrestler. Tracy Smothers had the honor of doing his first match ever in Lebanon, Tennessee. Turned out to be a great, great guy. Saw him at the final matches of the Nashville Sports Arena. He was there that night. In fact, I've got a great picture about a year before he passed, but great guy from Springfield, Tennessee, in fact. Brickhouse Brown, boy, we lost another great legend there against Billy Jack Haynes. Somebody asked, did the Dallas wrestlers ever come and wrestle in Memphis? Heck yeah, they did. We had Steve Austin. We had a bus load of them just about every Saturday, and they're on Monday night. And Billy Jack Haynes was one of them that wrestled in Dallas. It ended up wrestling in Memphis. PG-13 against the Rock and Roll Express. Rock and Roll Express attacked PG after a match of the night, according to your notes, Randy, between PG-13 and the Rock and Roll Express. And they were both at their prime, so I can imagine that would be a fabulous match. Speaking of a fabulous match, the Fabulous Ones against Tommy Rich and Doug Gilbert. The Fabulous Ones, Steve Kern, Stan Lane, they were a Memphis. That was probably the hottest tag team to come on the scene in the Jarrett years. And it was an idea that was kindled between Jackie Fargo and Jerry Jarrett to take the moniker of the Fabulous Jackie Fargo, the Fabulous Fargos, as they were called, and create the Fabulous Ones. And I dare say, I would think in the day and in the period of time that the Fabulous Ones were in Memphis, they were probably as popular and maybe even more popular than the Fabulous Jackie and Don or Jackie and Sonny Fargo were back then. Then it was Jerry Lawler against Joe LeDuc. In the time frame of things, Randy, was this before Joe LeDuc cut himself with an axe in the arm on TV or after?
Oh, it was way after.
He
did the cutting in 1979, and this happened in this memory show happened in 1995.
Did he bring the axe?
I don't think so. The match wasn't that great either, by the way.
Really? Oh, my. And then the Parade of Legends. We were talking about this. We've got video on that, so let's switch to it. This is from the Night of Legends in Louisville, Kentucky at the Louisville Gardens in 1994. This is the Parade of Legends.
And we're seeing the end of the LeDuc and Lawler, and we'll go ahead.
Lawler ducks under, Joe.
And
goes over to see
this.
that Bill
Not
Rush
a
is
good
okay
match.
because LeDuc
you see the Louisville Gardens, a lot of people,
and that's
going to
be a disqualification
by Joe LeDuc.
And the winner,
the King, won the match.
Still the unified champion, Jerry the King
LeDuc was still
Lawler.
a great heel. Now let's watch this.
Leading off our Parade of Legends, Gypsy Joe. You remember him as the Angel, and brother, let me tell you,
look at Frank Morrell.
Frank Morrell.
He was running, man. That wacky backy we were using on the way to Louisville gave energy to him.
Corsica Joe.
Corsica Joe. Bo says LeDuc had not wrestled in 7 years and had been in hiding.
And what a lady. Once again, Sarah Lee.
She was a sweet thing right there. One of the nicest people you'll ever want to meet.
See, I got some sugar, Michael.
USWA,
You would do it every time.
Herself a long time. They thought they'd never get it away from her. She would get in and strap with them in or out.
You'll like this, Michael.
Combs was a winner. once again, in our
Cora.
parade of legends, Cora Cole.
As a blonde, oh my God. At that age as a blonde, that is amazing. Boy, that probably was the best female wrestler, pure wrestler that I've ever encountered.
I get more sugar.
Necessarily always cheer when you saw him come out.
Global announcer Dean Hill, a police officer, was there helping with the ceremony. You know this guy, Michael?
Why?
I didn't catch. Who was that?
Let me tell you one thing about
Jim White.
when this
Okay.
gentleman
Yeah,
got
Lawler's
inside
first
the
tag
ring,
team
there was
partner.
one way, his way, and that's the way he called him. And
How
he
about
made
this
it
guy,
plain
Michael?
to anybody
No, I
that was
wrote
in
several
there,
texts to
and
this
if they
guy
want
owning
to
land in
violate,
Sumner County. He
step
was
up
our
and call
tax
out
assessor,
my
Tommy
name.
Marlin.
Tommy
All right.
Marlin.
He's looking dapper. There's Dean Hill and Corey Macklin.
Love that hat. Dean Hill was a Louisville police officer, I believe.
Yes. Also was the host of Smoky of Ohio Valley Wrestling.
Did not know that. OVW.
Yes.
That
Here's
team do
Big
next?
Bill
One thing we didn't
Hickerson.
have to wonder about too much was the fact they're going to win.
Talking
because
Memphis
they found
Wrestling
some
on
way
the
to
9th
do
day
it.
of July. I told you this show's going to be good. Call a friend, call a neighbor, tell them what they're missing. This has been a great, great show. Randy West doing the camera work in the film.
Bob's still ready to get there and get it with the best of them. Bullet Bob Armstrong.
Boy, I think
Thank
Bob
you,
wrestled up until like
great
2 weeks
memories.
before he passed on.
He's with us tonight and is certainly legendary. The French-Canadian Joe
Now watch
Ledoux.
Ledoux here.
Joe Ledoux.
In character. Watch.
Every place there's wrestling, you go to the old wrestling fans and talk to them about it and say, hey, you know that crazy Canadian? You're talking about Joe Ledoux. Here he is, one of our parade of legends, here tonight.
Isn't that not living your gimmick, Michael?
I love that.
Well,
I love that.
nobody yet has been able to tell Joe to do anything that he doesn't want to do. We appreciated having him here on this night to remember.
Would have been funnier if he had tore up the certificate.
Yes.
The Tag Team Championship, a long time. Just a plain, ordinary, tough son of a gun. Let's bring out Eddie Marlin. You remember the team of Eddie Marlin and Tommy Gilbert, Southern Tag Champions. I'm delighted to say, and not only call him a champion, a friend of mine too. Eddie has done so much for wrestling since he's been out of the ring actively. In our parade, Eddie Marlin.
I think we're fixing to see the most over wrestler in the history of Louisville wrestling.
Our next member in the Parade of Champions tonight is a guy that when I first saw him, I just had no idea there'd be any way in the world. No, I'm not really sure that he's big enough and tough enough to make it in this business. Can I tell you? He proved he was in spades. You remember him as not only an outstanding single wrestler, but an outstanding member of one of the most feared tag teams around. We're talking about the team of Jerry Jarrett and Tojo Yamamoto. Here is Jerry Jarrett!
We recently saw the scaffold match with Jerry and Don Green and how over Jerry was. I think that blew especially Chris Ellis's mind. And coming into the Louisville Gardens one more time. Looking young here, Michael.
Yeah, he looks great. Looks great.
He could do his share of whipping Jerry Jarrett. Jerry.
You didn't get any sugar.
No, didn't want any.
And I I'm going to call my friend and general manager.
Jarrett was more over than anybody in Louisville in the glory days of Louisville wrestling, no doubt.
How much of that was from the fact that his mother was at the front gate and ran the box office and really ran Louisville wrestling for a long, long time for Nick?
Thank you very much, Lance. First of
That
all,
leads into my little speech here, Michael.
going all over me. Growing up
A lot
as
is the
wrestling
answer to your
fan.
question.
I'm from Jonesboro, Arkansas. I think everybody knows watching Eddie Marlin, Jerry Jarrett, everybody here. And I want everybody to know how much I feel about them. And I'm sure everybody here tonight at the Louisville Garden right now would like everybody to know, Lance Russell, you know I love you. Everybody in Louisville appreciates the great legends of Louisville wrestling. We all know all the great legends here, but there's one special lady I would like to make a few comments about. Behind the scenes, she has been the major force. She came up to Louisville in 1970. She came to the Louisville Gardens for 25 years, up and down the roads, working 20 hours a day. She is the lady that made Louisville wrestling what it is. She is the lady that made Jerry Jarrett what he is. She is the lady that I would like to bring out here last night in tribute, ladies and gentlemen, Miss Christine Jarrett.
Does this give you chills, Michael?
We would like to honor tonight, long-time Louisville wrestling promoter, the mother of Jerry Jarrett, the grandmother, of course, of Double J Jeff Jarrett, of Jason Jarrett, Miss Christine Jarrett, returning after a couple of years absence tonight
And Waller
to
was
the
in the
Louisville
final
Garden.
match on this card that we're not showing today. He was there.
Jerry looks so much like his mama.
Yes.
June the 11th, 1995, on the 25th anniversary, a special tribute to Christine Jarrett, the first lady and longtime promoter of Louisville wrestling. Miss Christine, we love you.
I got more sugar.
I like it.
I racked up that night. Didn't matter if I was high as a kite or what, back in the good old days.
It is sure true. Without this lady, there sure wouldn't have been any Louisville wrestling. She did it. Thank you, Christine, from the bottom of our hearts.
Boy, Lance always has the right words to say, doesn't he?
Oh my gosh. Seeing this again, I just watched this yesterday, and I'm teared up again. The Monday Night Memories, Parade of Legend in the Hall of Fame.
That we want to get to tonight.
And this. Watch this. Now, I said in the long term, Jerry Jarrett was the most overall babyface there. This particular night was Jackie Fargo. No doubt. By the way, Mr. Ball says, rest in peace, Lance and Dave. Dave is still kicking. Listen to the people, Michael, with that strut.
Jackie, there isn't but one guy that can come up here and live up to all of the things that have been said about you. You're the man who does it with grace, and you do it so easy. You got that easy smile, but boy, when it came to getting tough, you could do it like nobody else. We're delighted to have you here in Louisville with us nights that we'll remember.
Good to have
and you've
Rodney
made many
Howard
nights,
watching.
nights that we remember.
Thank you. Thank you. A life dream for me has come true. If no one like myself could accept this from such great fans, I've never been lost for words, but I'm just about to cry. I don't mind telling you. I love you very much. What a great honor to come to a wonderful city like Louisville, have such distinguished people around me. I don't deserve it, but I certainly thank you. I had a dream as a little boy to be a professional wrestler. I didn't go out and get to play football and basketball, but I worked hard. And with your help and the love of God, I give God a lot of credit. He did it for me. I'll never forget you as long as I live. I love every one of you, and thank you so much for a great honor. Thank you.
Well, Jackie can work the mic. Even in this setting, he's incredible on the mic.
I got to tell you, there are records in this United States that he and his brother still hold for attendance. An absolute legend in his time, Jackie Fargo. Well, that's it, ladies and gentlemen. Don't go home. We have an absolutely unbelievable main event to find out who is the best of Louisville, and we're
The memory song playing in the background.
just a moment. Thank you very much, and bless you.
You know, I caught on. It's pronounced Louisville. You talk to people up there, it's Louisville, Louvull, Louisville. And laughing at Lance, there's always been sort of a rivalry between Louisville and Memphis out of basketball proportions, the Louisville Cardinals and the Memphis Tigers. And Lance called it Louisville. And to people in Louisville, it ain't Louisville or Louisville, it's Louisville.
And we'll get out of that video right now as I look for another video to respond to the Louisville Night of Legends on June the 11th, 1995. Here is our co-host, Michael St. John, full screen.
You know, there wasn't anybody that I watched be introduced that doesn't deserve that and many, many more honors, even from, Gypsy Joe. And you talk about a battle-worn professional, wrestled in 8 decades. 8 decades the man wrestled. I think Cher is trying to equate that in her singing career, but 8 decades Gypsy Joe wrestled. And then all the way through Miss Christine, Cora Cone. I mean, looking at that lineup, they all deserved that and so much, much more. And there were others that were not there that would be in that class for sure. But I'll tell you that you talk about a night of legend, especially in Louisville, Kentucky. That was it. And I do not think you could top that at all, Randy. That was pretty incredible. And by the way, when we mentioned the attendance, the Louisville Gardens held a lot fewer people than the Memphis Mid-South Coliseum. I want to say about half of if I remember correctly, I think the Gardens topped out at about 6,300, and the Mid-South Coliseum could hold a lot more than that. So
11.7 capacity of the Coliseum and 6,700 people in Louisville.
67. So pretty close there, but an incredible night. The only person I was surprised that was not there, and at this point, I want to say he was programming in Memphis, was the legendary Johnny Randolph, who was the ring announcer and an announcer in Louisville, and one of my mentors in the radio business. The great Johnny Randolph deserved to be there too. But if I'm not mistaken, he was working for Clear Channel at that point and was programming a station I used to program in Memphis, Tennessee, the mighty 680 WMPS.
Very interesting, and it was just a great night. Then the next day on a Saturday, we did Memphis Memories 2 at the Mid-South Coliseum in Memphis. Now, this next video is we're going to switch gears and talk just a little bit, Michael, before we go to that video. And this is the one that we will show the ring announcements and get out of it and fast forward later on in the match. But basically, I did the bit earlier in the show. In 93, Jeff left, Jerry Jarrett left, Lawler and Raw, Lawler switched babyface. Then at this point, by 95, through the success of Monday Night Memories, was quickly after that show became the booker of the territory. And the first goal was to make sure that I made Brian Christopher the top single babyface, because remember, Lawler would make TV sometimes and the Mid-South Coliseum sometimes, but Louisville and Evansville and Nashville and the spot shows almost never. So I had to get my own crew over and did that the rest of 94 into 95. And we saw earlier PG-13 Rock and Roll Express. We showed that last week or the week before, where that was a making star moment with PG-13 because Louisville was their top town and was Brian Christopher top town. But a scary sight, if you would have been around in 1993, would you have worried about the company knowing that Jerry Jarrett, nothing to do with it. Jeff Jarrett, nothing to do with it. Jerry Lawler, very little to do with it. And a skinny little ring announcer and office person would be the booker of the company. Would you be worried at that point in time of the success and the survival of the company?
I don't know if worried is the right word. I think I would have been concerned, and it would have been it would be that all of a sudden you're the underdog and you've got to prove yourself. So to me, that's a great challenge. I mean, that's what my life has been all about, is going into a radio station that was on its backside and resurrecting it. And, from a radio standpoint, never leaving a radio station at a lower rating than when I'd taken over in my entire career. And in your wrestling career, I mean, look at what you have done. Same thing. You take them at the low point, you bring them to a high point. You take something that is brand new, you mold it like clay, and it becomes a favorite in Memphis, a power pro. There's a lot of parallels there. So I don't know if worried would have been a right word. I think concerned and challenged would have been better said.
One of the things I needed to do, because switching Brian Christopher, he was already a main event heel. That was easy. PG was a kind of comedy act, a middle of the card thing, and getting them over was an issue. It really was. It was a issue for sure, 100%. And so we did that. And the way we did this, we had a team called the Eliminators come in, and we had the USWA tag team title belt on them. They won the titles from Eddie Gilbert and Brian Christopher, and they were beating up everybody. Finally, I booked the program with PG-13. PG got a 1, 2, 3 on the Eliminators 6 straight weeks. Now, we might do heat afterwards. They might get beat up on TV, but they got their hand raised 6 straight weeks. And the Eliminators, Perry Saturn, in real life, a mean, tough son of a gun, without a doubt. Absolutely without a doubt. It's Perry Saturn and John Cronus. They were not the Spiders. The Spiders ended up another tag team that ended up in the WWE. Perry Saturn, ECW, Perry Saturn, WCW, Perry Saturn, the WWF. The Eliminators was a tough, big team. And because PG won that program, they got over and could move up the cards. And we'll show you in a few minutes PG-13's first main event match. But right now we are going to do this, and after the ring announcement's over, then we'll fast forward into the match. But here is PG-13 entering the arena. My crew, we had young baby faces. Young baby faces tag team PG-13 and a young baby face in Brian Christopher. And we would still use Jerry Lawler and Bill Dundee and the legends. But you have to freshen the product up some ways. Now, for those of you that's not, certainly PJ, Perry Saturn was a part of this, and you will see part of the match, and you will see the introduction on how big these guys are. And a lot of people second guess me on the use of PG-13 in this spot because they were small, but they could work, they had charisma, and they got over.
And they could do good promos on the mic. I mean, both
Yes.
Wolfie and Jamie did great promos.
Look at those eliminators, the size on them. Perry Saturn's the one without the shirt, and there you go. As real quickly we go with a good tag team does double stuff, and as you see that, the kick, boom, double slam. They were exciting team. I know that when we were first getting PG over, you weren't in the territory right now, as Adam can fast forward a little bit into this match. As Michael, you weren't in the territory, you were living somewhere else. As you see from the PG rock and roll match we showed a couple of weeks ago and what we showed you today, they got over, Michael. They got over.
Oh, absolutely. And of course, I'd known Jamie from the neighborhood. They just introduced him from the hood. Well, he was in the same hood that I lived, a block over in Hendersonville, when he was growing up. And he'd come over, my son and him, and he used to hang a little bit and ride bikes and do the neighborhood kid things when they were 10, 11, 12 years old. But Jamie was a natural. And it's a shame that other things got in his way, because I think Jamie, despite his size, he was as tough as his dad. He could move a little quicker than his dad. I think Jamie would have been a major star. Not that he wasn't a star, but I think he could have gone even further with his career.
We are good with this and keeping it like it is, because there's 5 minutes left in this video coming from the Mid-South Coliseum in Memphis, Tennessee.
As if to make a tag, he was in a neutral corner, and now he is back in trouble with that chin lock again. Whoopity! Trying to get the crowd in behind him, and you hear that about hometown crowd, etc. These young guys.
Bonus ended up going with Perry to ECW. He was pretty green.
Just watching this, I would say that Perry Saturn was the stronger of the two in the match, although Cronus was bigger.
Yes. Bert Prentice was the manager of the Eliminators at the time. This was in 1994. Usually I had Jamie, and I kind of copied from the Rock and Roll Express. Jamie would do the selling, and Whoopi, because he was some bigger, would make the comeback. This is a good finish, and we used some of it for the Rock and Roll PG match, as we see right now. Adam, I didn't realize this till I saw this previewing earlier, but the top rope thing, and that's one person missing. That looked a little awkward again. Pretty green.
Yeah, I've seen that. I've seen this. They all missed the shoot off the top rope.
We did that with PG and Rock and Roll. I thought that's the first time it was ever done, but it was done here, and they go for a count, a 1-2, and broke up by Whoopi D.
I think this was after Bert Prentice and Jerry Jarrett sort of buried the hatchet, if you would, because, Bert ran opposition to Jerry for a long time in a lot of the cities in Middle Tennessee and Southern Kentucky.
And Jerry Jarrett at this point was in New York. This was from 1994. And
so he and Lawler. Yeah, he and Lawler
brought Bert in and wanted me to use him, so I put him in. And there you go with PG-13 retaining. And again, the Eliminators was a big part in making PG. This was probably third match from the top. as we get out of this video and go to Michael St. John as I look for another video. What did you think about that mic? And do you agree with me that was very critical in the story of getting PG over and getting some sympathy on him?
Oh, absolutely. And you had him up against a team that was much bigger than them in size, and the appearance of, David and Goliath kind of thing going on there. But as you could tell, and it was very obvious in the way that match flowed, or at least what we saw of it, that PG had worked together a lot as a team, and they did a lot of things that were teamwork from working together, whereas the Eliminators were a younger team at the time. And again, Cronus was more green than Perry Saturn, who had a few years on him and a few more matches on him. And I think as the match wore on, you sort of saw that come to fruition. But being critical, that would be my biggest criticism. But the fact that you would pair them against that kind of team was perfect psychology and a perfect booking of how you get a tag team across. You get them over by doing something like that.
Now, the top heel team in the territory was Doug Gilbert and Tommy Rich, and I explained to them we were going with a Rich Gilbert PG program. And Doug and Tommy at that point didn't have a lot of confidence. They were used to wrestling in the main events with Lawler and Bryan and others, and they thought they were being demoted. And it just took them a couple of weeks to figure out, hey, this is drawing money. We had Doug's mother involved. We had Whoopi's mother involved. We had Whoopi's stepdad involved. Just personal issues drawing a lot of money. As we roll this video, this is the first main event program that PG-13 had. And the video, I'm not sure if it's from Memphis or from Louisville. We can tell once we pitch to the video. This is a steel cage match, PG-13, Rich and Gilbert, and we'll watch that now. 2 videos to go, including this one, as Michael St. John, Randy Ells, and Adam Dunn bring you Talk to Memphis Wrestling. And for some reason, they don't have audio, and we don't have audio here. That happened a few weeks ago. So, Michael, we've got to do this cage match commentary here, man.
Well, this is typical Memphis brawling. It happens to be in a cage. Anything goes. There's the hubcap being used on Tommy Rich. And again, Gilbert comes in to break the count. And on the outside, this is Paulie Dangerously?
No, it's not Paulie Dangerously. It wouldn't be that. That would have been Scott Bowden.
Scott Bowden, okay. Dressed like Paulie Dangerously.
And that was Whoopi's mother. That was Whoopi's mother that hit him with the purse. We were doing personal issues. This was an exciting match. Can you tell if this is the Coliseum or the Louisville Gardens, Michael?
I want to say from just that shot, it looks like the Louisville Gardens, because you could see an exit way or an entryway towards the top of the screen. I want to say this is, and just looking at where the position of the camera is in the arena, I think this is Louisville.
We had some manager by the name of Chris Brown that didn't last a long time. It might be him. Adam saying it's not Scott Bowden. As this just a wild and woolly cage match, most people thinking this is the Louisville Gardens.
And this was after Dundee, or after Jamie and Wolfie lost their hair.
Yes, yes. By Bill Dundee causing them there. There's Gorgeous George III. And now that's Wolfie's the big guy selling is Wolfie's stepdad. Now, I think this, I don't know where it is, but Wolfie's mom is down. Stepdad throws a gimmick to Wolfie.
This has got to be Louisville, Randy.
Wolfie's stepdad, Pete, throws the purse or throws something, and they get a 1, 2, 3. How about that for personal issues and soap opera storytelling with the mom who is selling and the stepdad as Gorgeous George III. And of course, we want to get some heat there. Big Business Brown is the name of that manager, I believe, Adam.
Big Business Brown.
Didn't last long.
I love the fact that it's a cage match, and the only time you can get something into the cage is throw it over the top.
Yeah.
And now the cage is open. They bring the table into the ring. Speaking of which, did you see the table angle from the women's ladder match at the Money in the Bank the other night?
Yes, crazy.
I'm surprised the little Japanese girl didn't break the back.
Didn't die.
Yeah, I agree. Now look at this. This is dangerous too, because this is is this a gimmick table? Yeah, this was a gimmick table, and look at that. Two big guys on the top, and that table just explodes.
I believe the referee here is Bill Rush, Todd, local Memphis guy. It was Bill Rush.
Yes.
As we did a babyface finish, and now they're beating up the dad. We're bringing other people out. Again, this is a main event program, and in the middle of the program, Eddie Gilbert had passed away in February, and we put Gorgeous George III as the substitute from Doug, as Doug took about 2 months off. This is just total chaos. So I think this is indication why we were drawing pretty good, Michael.
Indeed, it's brawls in and out of the ring. Was Wolfie's dad? Did he work? Was he one of the? Did he wrestle?
He wrestled in the Independence, the Outlaw. He's a big guy, wrestled under a mask, and also it's Pete. His name is Pete. I forgot his last name. Is Bo's still watching? He can probably remember.
Got juice on the outside too.
This is totally chaos. We did a babyface finish, but then we leave them with heat.
Boy, this is good. This draws money.
This second time lately we showed a video and we didn't have the audio. I have no reason, no explanation for that. But we can cover it. We just don't hear the crowd noise. And now the people are in a panic trying to come help them.
That looks like Brickhouse Brown trying to get in the ring.
Yes. Yeah, I don't know who that is, but it wasn't Terry Funk. Frank Morrell.
There's Tara. There's Frank Morrell. You can see the back of his head. That's Frank. French Angel.
With his shirt off, and he was refereeing that night. We did the old stretcher gimmick.
Rolling Jamie out.
Jamie's down. Whoopi's pushing him out. Whoopi's dad, Whoopi's mom. Good business as you can discuss that. Why the closing video of the show I will try to figure out for us. And here's Michael St. John until I get that ready to roll.
Well, all the history of Memphis wrestling, looking back, the brawling in and out of the ring sold it over and over and over again. And as the Memphis wrestling legend expanded, more and more shows and more wrestling companies started doing that live chaos. The best example I can come up with was Paulie Dangerously started out in Memphis, didn't even have a car when he was working here, didn't work a long time here, but then later in life, he becomes the patriarch and invents, or at least discovers and puts together ECW, Extreme Championship Wrestling. And now you see the platitudes for Paul E., and well-deserved. He's probably the best overall actor in the WWE. He sells everything. I don't think I have seen Paul E. do anything in the past 20 years, or at least since the demise of ECW, where he hasn't just been exponentially incredible. And again, those roots where he got ideas and where he got thoughts and where he learned down his knee from Jerry Jarrett were from Memphis wrestling, and he still uses what he learned then today.
Starting June the 11th, 1995, we started the Smoky Mountain versus USWA. Now, over the next several weeks, as you see this great graphic that Adam Dunn put together, USWA Championship Wrestling and Smoky Mountain Wrestling just happened. It was based in Knoxville, Tennessee. Memphis, of course, based in Memphis, Tennessee, and we were a full-time territory, and Cornette was not a weekly territory, monthly territory, and would run maybe 3 nights a week when Memphis ran normally 6. That was the setup, so it was easy to get that talent on Mondays and Tuesdays. Didn't get them a lot Monday, Tuesdays, Wednesday, didn't get them a lot on Saturdays, but we did get them some. We'll show a lot of stuff from the Smoky Mountain. This is storytelling, long storytelling. So we got a lot coming. We started this June the 11th. The first blow off, we did 2 parts of this feud. The first blow off was in August, and was going to read that card, but we'll hold that off because we won't get to anywhere near the blow off this week. But we will show the start of the Smoky Mountain USWA feud right now. This is a 9-minute, 40-second video. Smoky Mountain Wrestling, USWA Wrestling, the feud continues.
Back here at Louisville Gardens. This has gotten bigger and bigger as the weeks have gone on. It's even come up to the point where Randy Hales was supposed to become a special referee last Tuesday night. Let's take a look at some of the footage of what's been going on between PG-13 and the Rock and Roll Express. He could have done it on his own. Referee Mark Curtis threatening to end the match and declare Rock and Roll Express the winner. Referee Joe Wheeler, thank goodness, isn't going to allow that to happen. And they're bumping bellies in the ring, confronting each other. Oh, Rock and Roll Express, that's it. Hold him back. Hold him back. My goodness. Oh, and Ricky Morton advising that he's lucky that Joe Wheeler is lucky that Ricky Morton held back Mark Curtis. Mark obviously threatening to do the same thing to Joe Wheeler that he just did to Randy Hales. Those of y'all that may have missed it earlier, Randy Hales was attacked earlier this evening by referee Mark Curtis and then by the Rock and Roll Express. Took some damage to the rib or shoulder area, I'm not sure which. But Randy was taken out of the ring by PG-13 that came into the ring to save him. Hopefully Randy's going to be all right, but right now it's unknown to us at ringside as to his medical condition. Referee Mark Curtis doing this. Oh my goodness. Taking his time to get down there to count out the Rock and Roll Express. Again, Jamie Dundee, Iceman, taking Ricky Morton over with the headlock. And down into the scissors, reversed there by Ricky Morton. The crowd, of course, threw to go. He grabbed the hair of the Iceman. Mark Curtis, of course, says, no, that was clean. No problems, no worries.
Referee.
I think it's obvious to everyone here in the Gardens, this is just a little ridiculous.
Mark Curtis, Brian Hildebrand.
And over
we worked together well.
The Iceman himself, really I'm getting fired up here. This is getting ridiculous. Over the top rope, Ricky Morton sends the Iceman for the ride. And of course, Robert taking an opportunity on a cheap shot.
2 referees, Louisville referee Joe Wheeler. Mark Curtis was the representative of the of the Smoky Mountain Wrestling, so we had 2 referees. We had told this story several different times. I was beat up earlier in the night. If you heard on commentary, I was attacked earlier in the night. As I was supposed to be one of the special referees in the match. My ribs were injured. So we put Joe Wheeler out there to do that. This is a hell of a match, and you hear from the reaction of the people.
Well, there's a couple of different speeds here to these counts. Mark Curtis has sure did look to this ring announcer here as though he was trying to get that count down as quickly as he could. Robert Gibson tags in, sits Jamie for the ride. The Iceman puts him in the small package, rolls him up. Referee Joe Wheeler down for the count. Robert Gibson able to break it, comes back with the forearm, the big clothesline.
Michael, you didn't mention, I was scheduled to be one of the special referees with the evil Smoky Mountain referee. I was beat up in the night, earlier in the night, and was stretchered back to the back. So regular referee Joe Wheeler had to come out and take my place because I was in no situation to do it. So we have a babyface referee in Joe Wheeler, and Mark Curtis as he's cheating for Smoky Mountain, and we're telling that story in this match now.
So the Rock and Roll Express are representing Smoky Mountain, and the PG-13 is representing USWA or Power Pro, right?
Yes, yes. No, it was USWA at this point. This is well before. This was 3 years before Power Pro. You saw Mark Curtis with the fast count that they took out, and Joe Wheeler was fussing there. Certainly tells us story in that match.
Did you not bring back the feud between Smoky Mountain and Power Pro later on? Because I know Cornette did some stuff with you.
No, that was separate. We did bring Cornette in, but that was not related to. By that point, Smoky Mountain was long gone.
Gotcha. I never knew until Jimmy and I were talking in Bowling Green a few years back that Rick Rubin was his financial backer. I knew Rick Rubin, of course, from Def Jam Records, and his partner Leor Cohen, and all that group when I was working in Los Angeles. And I knew Rick as a big wrestling fan, but I didn't know that he was the man behind the money in Smoky Mountain.
Yeah, it was kayfabe to the end. It was, but now it's public, and I knew at the time. Cornette and I talked a lot. Joe Wheeler did referee our first Power Pro TV match, Paul Diamond against the Spellbinder. As now the referee is down, and here's the situation with the referees. Joe Wheeler is down. This plays in the evil referee as the only referee up. You see what Mark Curtis does. He has a HUD cut. Oh my goodness. And 1, 2, 3.
Snap count.
1, 2, 3. Michael?
Yes. Snap count. Referee heels out, causes the finish. Heels win.
The story's not over.
Again, the Rock and Roll Express taking the belts in a match where referee Mark Curtis played more than a casual part in it. Appeared to everyone here at the Gardens. Mark took the HUD count. Ice just found out about it, and he's dragging him into the ring. Referee Joe Wheeler obviously had enough, but Mark's interference is not intervening. Mark Curtis takes the big
terrible backdrop.
Rock and Roll Express.
Mark Curtis, and here comes the Rock and Roll.
Since we'll be over
Dean
this
Hill
wasn't
doing
the
commentary here.
This was the Mark Curtis that refereed in Dallas. This wasn't the Mark Curtis that worked with Joe Lewin over in the Carolinas, right?
Well, he worked in WCW and
Did he?
for Jim Crockett Promotions.
Okay, so that may be the same Mark Curtis
He
then.
passed away at a young age. He was Jim Cornette's right-hand man. Now look, as he loads the boot. There's me. I smashes him with the hubcap.
Randy Hales again. He's already injured once from him, and he's taking a repeated beating. PG-13 back into the ring to clear the area. Joe Wheeler attacking now Randy Hales. Again, Rock and Roll Express takes both of the belts with the help of NWA referee Mark Curtis. Again, Randy Hales demanding Mark Curtis come back to ringside. PG-13's got something to say to him as well.
I want to ask you something here. Everybody here knows that PG-13 can beat the Rock and Roll Express. He's proven that. He's proven that week after week that we can beat them. They got this little Indian in their corner that seems to be causing a lot of trouble. And it's really getting under my skin. I don't want you to be a referee. I don't want him to be a referee. I want a regular referee, and I want you to be an
Mark Curtis. Rock and Roll Express and Mark Curtis being challenged back into the ring area by PG-13.
Rodney, it was Brian Hildebrand, which was real name.
To get out of town.
People ready to see it. Dean Hill announcing the policeman in Louisville, Kentucky. PG-13, myself, Joe Wheeler in the ring. The people right. This program drew money.
It's just starting to sink in on PG. I think that the belts have been lost, are now in the hands of the NWA champions, the Rock and Roll Express, now proud possessors of both belts.
All right. As Michael St. John is on the screen. As Michael, here we go. We will show next week. We will continue the Smoky Mountain USWA feud. Had a lot of stuff on this show today. Plus, we started the Smoky Mountain USWA feud, and we will continue for the next several weeks. Your thoughts on the program today, and especially the Smoky Mountain USWA war that's just getting heated. I think you'll enjoy next week.
Well, folks, I'll tell you, if you liked what you saw this week, it's going to get better. And I really enjoyed this because it brought back a lot of memories. Quite frankly, it brought back a lot of stuff that I remember, but haven't seen for a long time. So good job, Randy, putting this together. And again, for our crowd, some of the greatest comments. I wish I could answer all the questions because we had a lot of good questions up there yet. But anyway, great show. Really, really great show. Before we sign off real quick tonight, country music lost a real legend today, Randy. I don't know if you knew this or not.
No, I don't. And do we have breaking news? Can we put a breaking? Okay, go ahead. We got the breaking news graphic up, Michael. So go ahead. I'm not aware.
I was trying to see if I had breaking news on here, but I don't. I got noise, but I don't have breaking news. I thought I had. Okay, I could give our Dirt Nap intro if you want to do that.
Now another Funhouse Dirt Nap update.
Well, anyway, this is breaking news, and it is sad because Joe Bonzell, who was the lead singer of the Oak Ridge Boys, and talk about an 80s phenomenon, the Oak Ridge Boys, not only in country music, but pop music as well. We lost Joe Bonzell today. Great guy, fun to work with, great interviews, and an outstanding member and singer of the Oak Ridge Boys passed away today. So 2 of the Oak Ridge Boys now have passed away. So it's a very sad situation and a very sad moment in country music.
Thanks for keeping up with the news. And we like to do this, and we had somebody that I blocked off of here that fussed at us talking about non-wrestling stuff, but on a show that I'm putting together, if it's breaking news, wrestling or otherwise, we are going to cover it. As somebody was upset of us mentioning Willie Mays' death a couple of weeks ago. Anyway, Michael, what are you going to be doing next week?
Well, next week I've got my son Joshua, or my grandson Joshua, who has been. I had him for 4 days. Randy, Melanie, and I had him as mom and dad were tied up and out of town, and we had him over the 4th. And I'll tell you, they get to be. He'll be 5 in about 20 days from now, and they get to be this age, and they question everything, and they assert their authority, if you would. So we've had a lot of fun, but I've been promising him that we would go see the Rocket City Trash Pandas play ball, and we have a special. In fact, we're doing a little thing with both Fun 92.7 and WRAB 107 FM at the stadium next Tuesday night. So I'm going to have him next Tuesday night. And the neat thing about it is we're getting close to college football. The SEC Media Days begins on Monday from Dallas. And of course, this year, Oklahoma and Texas come into the SEC. 12 teams will make the final playoff. It's going to be crazy in college football, and we're not that far away from high school football as well. So we're getting to a fun, busy time of the year, and bigger and better things happening right here on Talking Memphis Wrestling.
Hey, how far up the ladder do you rate this show in the series we've done for 3 or 4 years? I think it's up there, Michael.
I really enjoy it. I hope the fans enjoyed it. The folks that watched enjoyed it as much as we did. You know, things get, and you know, you're a programmer too, Randy, and you know, sometimes you roller coaster a little bit, but sometimes you get on that rise and you just do a little bit better and a little bit better and a little bit better. And right now, I really feel like Talking Memphis Wrestling, from what we've done over the past 3 months, is just continuing to break new ground. And I hope the folks, I know there are a lot more folks watching it, so they must like what we're doing. And thank y'all so much for watching it and putting up with me. But I really, really appreciate everybody and appreciate you, Randy, and the great work that Adam Dunn does. Oh my gosh. And thank God for Randy West giving us all this material that we use every week, because without him, we wouldn't be here either.
See, I plug Randy, put Randy over, you put Randy over, and I see on the screen Adam is throwing stuff and having a hissy fit and has tears going down. We love you too, Adam, but you're great, fantastic, but you're no Randy West.
And thanks to our good friend Bo James too. Bo, and I saw that great picture of you and Waylon over the 4th too, buddy. Good hearing and talking with you as well, and seeing you up here tonight.
I'll be taking off the show because I will be here this coming Monday night, and I will do Power Pro Wrestling, the Power Hour. Then next Tuesday night, talking Memphis wrestling, as Michael will not be with us. Chris will be back, and Pat will be back from Scotland. And again, we'll be off the screen. And Michael, do us the honor and the pleasure of getting us off the air tonight. And thank you. And y'all have fun next Tuesday.
Well, thank you, Randy, for a great show. Thank you to the audience for a great participation. Again, love your comments and questions. Thank you. You can follow me at Saint That Ain't One on Twitter. And also you can follow us on Fun 92.7 as well. And again, for Adam West, who behind the scenes is a masterful job, and for all the folks that contributed to tonight's show, both today and in the past, God bless you and thank you. Have a great week, and I'll see you in 2 weeks.
Talking Memphis Wrestling with Randy Hill and special guests.